Stay dandy, baby. 2020 has been a real shitty year, but at least we're gonna end it on a golden note. And that's because today I'm going to be reviewing the mid-90s OVA comedy classic, Golden Boy.
I love gold!
Today's review was brought to you by Ryan McLean, who made a very nice donation through my Patreon page. Remember, first-time donators, I will review an anime series of your choice when you make that first-time donation. And this was a pretty interesting series, as I knew nothing about Golden Boy. I definitely went into this show completely blind, and thankfully it was an OVA. At a mere 6 episodes, it was very easy to digest. That being said, Golden Boy was kind of interesting to say the least. Crass, rude, filled to the absolute brim with lots of jiggly fan service, Golden Boy is a series that probably wouldn't fly today. At times, the series can be borderline anime porn, but I still managed to get a lot of entertainment value out of the series. Again, when it comes to my Patreon reviews, whenever there's a show that I know nothing about, I always end up just really loving it, and I have to say that Golden Boy certainly gave me a lot of laughs. But it also made me cringe pretty hard. That being said, I honestly think that if you're an old school anime fan, Golden Boy is certainly worth checking out. So, what's the deal with the series anyway? Golden Boy is based on a manga series which is both written and illustrated by Tatsuya Egawa. The series centers around a 25-year-old student of the world and professional pervert who goes by the name of Kintaro Oe. Kintaro is a perfect example of what happens when you judge a book by its cover. The entirety of the series follows Kintaro as he travels around Japan, taking up odd jobs, and changing the lives of 6 distinctive women. The very first episode of Golden Boy, I have to admit, was kind of tough to get through, but that's because I didn't know initially what the entire show was going to be all about. Essentially, it was just a straight-up comedy, which was about Kintaro, who was potentially one of the dumbest characters that I have ever seen. When there's something presented to him, a task, a job, anything, he always finds a way to ruin it, and usually in the most ridiculous, over-the-top fashion, and usually because his dick gets in the way. Whether it's his goofy facial expressions, his odd fascination with recently used toilets, or the fact that he makes notes about every single thing that he comes into contact with his very precious notebook, Kintaro is just a weird dude. But the end of the first episode reveals a massive twist about the character of Kintaro. He's something of a big-hearted genius. Despite acting like a childish dumbass, Kintaro is actually really intelligent. In fact, he was a law student at Tokyo University, where he managed to meet all of the requirements to graduate. But instead, he decided to drop out and go across Japan, learning to be a free spirit, working different jobs, and learning everything there is to know about life itself. The narrator even hints that he has the potential to save Japan and maybe even the world itself. Maybe even the anime industry. And this is where the formula for Golden Boy actually comes into play. In the first episode, he ends up meeting this hotshot president of this software company who thinks of him as nothing more than a complete and utter moron. It isn't until the very end of the episode that he actually surprises her and actually improves on all of the technology that they're creating, but before she can even thank him, he decides to go off on his very next journey. Initially, Kintaro comes across as very overzealous, perverted, and honestly the type of person that you don't want to model yourself after. But the fact of the matter is, he ends up bringing out the best qualities in everyone. And this is where you start to see the pattern of this OVA series, where he keeps meeting all of these different people while taking on different jobs. A lot of the times, these women that he comes into contact with don't realize that he's actually as smart as he is, and he almost plays them just as much as they play him. And this leads to what is arguably probably the most contentious thing about Golden Boy, and that's its fan service.
Awesome boobage!
There was a point about halfway through watching Golden Boy where I had to question, is this actually a hentai series in disguise? The amount of raw, in-your-face fan service in the show can be probably very off-putting for a lot of people, especially for those who watch modern anime, but the fact of the matter is, we have to remember that Golden Boy was a product of the times, and the fact of the matter is, this series was made to be very titillating. This fan service completely clashes with Kintaro and his overall mentality of wanting to learn a little bit more about the world, yet at the same time, it also complements it as well. Kintaro wants to learn everything, not just about what it means to be a good person and to work in various jobs and businesses, but also to learn the secret and sexy ways of the woman. Now, this isn't always the case. In fact, some of the stories in this 6-episode OVA are, dare I call it, very sweet. In fact, if you watch all 6 episodes at once, you're gonna actually see something of a pattern. The first 3 episodes are kind of mirrors of the last 3 episodes of the series. The first one being about a woman who doesn't trust his abilities to do anything correctly, the second one about a very sexually promiscuous woman, and the third one about a sweet girl who simply just wants to make the world a better place. And these scenarios are varied and exciting, such as watching Kintaro actually work for a mayoral campaign, or him working at a noodle shop, or one of my absolute personal favorites where he works as a swimming instructor and actually goes toe-to-toe with an Olympic medalist. I think the most over-the-top episode, however, has got to be the 5th episode of the series, where he ends up meeting this woman who is completely obsessed with her motorcycle. And when I mean obsessed, I mean really fucking obsessed here. She completely has it out for men. They simply cannot satisfy her, so the only thing that she can do to get off is to get on that motorcycle and go a-riding. It's moments like these when you're watching the series that you might want to lock the doors and turn off the lights for fear that someone's going to watch you watching what might be one of the steamiest scenes of the entire series. And yet, it's followed by a ridiculous race scene where he manages to go up against her in her motorcycle on a frigging bike, and it leads to one of the craziest action scenes of the entire series, where all manner of physics are completely defied just by this dude riding a bicycle. And it's all powered by his extreme will and desire to want to have sex with this girl. And even when he wins the race, he doesn't do it. He just continues on his crazy journey to learn a little bit more about the world itself. But it's episode 6 which completely blew me away for the fact that it was extremely meta, and it's the type of episode that I think all fans of anime and animation really need to check out, as the final episode actually involves Kintaro getting a job at an anime studio, and this completely portrays how awesome it is to be an animator, and while it's also the shittiest job of all time. The fact of the matter is, it's common knowledge. Being an animator in Japan is hard work. The hours are long, the pay is crap, and the fact of the matter is, not many people appreciate you. It's a very difficult job, and it's the type of episode that makes me really appreciate the fact that all of these people are putting in so much work to effectively give me just a few minutes of entertainment. And watching Kintaro actually work at this animation studio, which is on a very tight budget crunch in order to create some sort of like brand new anime film, is nothing short of educational. In fact, that might be the best word for the entire show. Educational. Despite it being over the top in terms of its scatological and titillating humor, there's a lot to learn in Golden Boy. And I have to say, it's that 6th episode where things really do come together, where we get to learn about the anime industry overall, everything that goes into it, the entire process of creating concept art, to animation, to actually seeing a finished product. And Kintaro, of course, is able to bring these anime people together to create a really great product, but even better, it actually manages to tie in all of the stories from the previous episodes, bringing in all of the women whose lives he's actually changed, and they all come together to actually help out this company and Kintaro as they manage to complete this film at the very last second. It's hilarious, it's fascinating, and yes, it features more toilet humor and lots of boobs. But as a comedy, does Golden Boy work? Well, I think that's a resounding yes. The show is absolutely hilarious in terms of the situations that it actually cooks up for our main character, but I think one of the biggest strengths of the entire series is how it actually plays with animation itself, and the fact that Kintaro has some of the greatest expressions that I have ever seen. I'm telling you, my sides were splitting when I was watching this show. This guy has got the best expressions I have seen in any anime series ever. He can switch on a dime from being stupid, goofy, and perverted to looking like a badass character from JoJo's Bizarre Adventure. And being that it is an OVA, it actually has some pretty decent production value. There are some really nice looking scenes in this series, not to mention every single character is very distinctive looking. Not every single person sort of blends into the background. That goes double for all of the female characters in the series, who certainly leave just as much as an impact as Kintaro himself, but really, it's all brought together by the actual character Kintaro. He is fascinating, to say the least. Like I said, it's that first episode where you get that big twist at the end and learning that he's actually quite an intelligent fellow that kind of changes everything. It makes you wonder, like, what he's actually going to do next, and it's kind of refreshing to see a character like this. You know, I guess you could compare him to, like, the main character of just about any big action anime series. They simply want to be the strongest or the best person in their series. Kintaro wants to be the best at everything, but he wants to experience it all at the same time, and most of this entire series is simply about the journey, not necessarily the destination, and I find that really great about his character. While he comes across as very dumb and loud and annoying, he's also kind of a really nice guy, looking out for the best intentions of just about anyone. He might come across as a little bit naive, but at the same time, he knows exactly what he's doing. He just doesn't necessarily wear it on his sleeves all the time. He's got a really big heart, and so does Golden Boy. It's not until the end that you realize that there's actually a lot more to this show. There's some layers, there's some depths here. You're just gonna have to wade through a lot of tits to actually get to it. So if unrealistic breast physics aren't the thing for you, you might not get a lot out of Golden Boy. But if you're willing to let your guard down a little bit and enjoy this story for what it is, you might actually end up getting some laughs for it. If anything, I can completely recommend the series for episode 6 alone, as it's an amazing sight into the animation industry. It's also worth mentioning that this is one hell of a time capsule of an anime series set in the mid-90s. It still kind of has like an 80s feel to it, especially in terms of the character design, and personally, that's like my favorite era of anime, so yeah, I was eating this shit up. So loosen up, take notes, and enjoy the educational and erotic adventures of Kintaro Oe and Golden Boy. I highly recommend it. It was a pleasant surprise, I have to say the least. So there it is, my friends. That's my final Patreon review of the year. Again, I would like to thank Ryan McLean for suggesting that I check out Golden Boy. It was probably one of my favorite shows that I actually watched this year in terms of Patreon reviews. I have a few more that are going to be coming out next year, so please make sure to stay tuned for those. Again, if any of you guys make a first-time donation through my Patreon, I'll review an anime series of your choice, and the more obscure, the better. That's been one of my favorite things this year about finally starting to do these Patreon-styled reviews, is I'm watching a lot of shows that otherwise I would never even look at, and every single one, for better for worse, has been a pretty pleasant surprise, and it's also just expanding my scope of what it means to actually watch anime. I've experienced so many unique shows this year, and I can't thank you guys enough for that. But another reason I like doing these reviews is I like to hear from you guys. If any of you did have an opportunity to either watch or read Golden Boy, I'd love to get your thoughts about it in the comments section below, telling me what you thought about this raucous and ridiculous OVA series, if you liked it, if you didn't like it, if you have any favorite funny moments, or the potential of the future for Golden Boy. Sound off, let's talk about it. Really exciting stuff. Thank you guys so much for watching this video. If you did like it, please give it a golden thumbs up. I'd really appreciate it. Make sure to subscribe to the channel for more reviews just like this one. I would also like to go ahead and take this time to thank all of my patrons. You guys have been amazing this year with all of the monthly donations that you've been giving me. Again, all those first-time donators, thank you so much. It's been so much fun reviewing all of these different shows for you guys. Remember, if you also become a part of my Patreon, I would love to add your name to this list of amazing people, the supporters who are effectively the producers of Ace Guru. So there it is, my friends. Happy New Year. Let's move on to 2021 with a lot of gusto, and as always, stay down there, baby.